What's up, gamers? DreamcastGuy here, reviewing today Assassin's Creed Odyssey. Ubisoft, over the course of the last couple of years, has really been trying to reinvent this franchise because, quite frankly, it was slowly sinking into the mud. With so many different sequels coming out back to back, board games cluttering up store shelves, and a really bad movie, it seemed like they realized that they needed to slow things down, tap the brakes, and do something to really reinvent it, to take it into the future, or in this case, the distant past. Now, Assassin's Creed Origins wasn't exactly my favorite game of last year. It did a lot of things that were very interesting, and it was fun to play at times, but I found the main character to be incredibly boring, and the setting itself not the best. So now, going into Odyssey, I was very curious to see what they could do in just 12 short months to shake things up. And I can say that this area, this time period, and getting to wander around in ancient Greece was a very smart choice. Now, first and foremost, my favorite thing about this game is that now we're playing as a mercenary. It seems like they've just basically thrown aside the entire Assassin's Creed lineage and just basically made it where we get to play as a random person in a cool era. And this one is especially fascinating since we get so many options as to how we want to interact with this land. Since we're playing as a mercenary, the biggest change that they've introduced here is the fact that in so many different situations, you get to choose how they want to play out. The targets you want to kill, the people you want to save, and even who you want to win wars. If you've ever opened up a history book, I'm sure you realize that ancient Greece was a time of terrible turmoil, specifically because of the Spartans and the Athenians. These people loved to just fight all day long and were constantly burning down entire cities and kingdoms in some sort of vain effort to rule the world. Well, if you're somebody who's willing to take cash for bloodshed, this is a great time to be alive. So on that note, let's talk about the new combat, because this is something they dramatically overhauled, and I think it works for the better. Many previous Assassin's Creed projects tried to be overly serious in a sense, and what I mean by that is they tried to make it where it almost felt like you were a person interacting with a giant film, or trying to play your part in these huge, epic moments that happened long ago, and I feel like those were good sometimes, but occasionally it just felt really clunky. Here, they've decided to say screw it and make this extremely video gamey. You can do stuff now like use magic, fight gods, or even do really weird stuff that's just downright impossible. Like here, I have unlocked a special ability that lets me shoot arrows and then remote control them. I can actually fly them directly into people's heads. Now, as weird as this stuff is, I actually really enjoyed it because it feels like they finally decided to find a new set of rules, a new way to try and freshen up this universe by just making things completely and totally feeling different. I will say that it seems like the main reason they decided to do this, and it's probably the one thing that absolutely destroys this game for being a 10, is the fact that they wanted this to be an RPG. This is a role-playing game down to its very core, and it drags stuff down to a standstill. So when you're trying to go along, you're fighting enemies, doing side quests, and helping people out. This does good stuff and gives you experience points, which slowly levels you up. Every time you hit a new level, you get an experience point that you can put into the talent tree, which makes it where you can unlock the different skills you're seeing throughout this video. But there's a downside to this, which is that enemies that are higher level are unkillable, and it makes this incredibly frustrating because it means that time and again you will have to grind. Yes, you heard me correctly. Think of this as like a classic JRPG in that there are certain times where you just have to stop what you're doing and walk in circles, battling until you're strong enough to carry on. Now, there is a good chunk of random stuff to do, and if you're just exploring the countryside, you will find cool side quests. Like, at one point, I was just trying to explore these blown out ruins, and I found a woman locked locked in a cage. And when I unlocked it, it turned out that she was this ancient high-ruling warrior, and she wanted to actually see this castle that she's named after that's now destroyed. So we went through and killed all these evil soldiers that were living in it. It was really remarkable to have such a cool moment in the middle of this giant empty area, but it still got frustrating sometimes when I would then get those levels and try and progress to that next cool spot or see that next giant horizon, only to realize that I am not even high enough level to see stuff. Towards the beginning, this isn't as big of a deal. It makes it where if people are within 3 or 4 levels of you, if you're fighting smart, you can take them down. Especially if you do something like I did, which is I put all my talent points into the assassin tree early on to make it where I could do extra stealth damage and take people down quickly and quietly. And I also got some weird magic, like this one that lets me teleport forward and stab one person really, really fast. That's cool, but when you start getting into the 20s, 30s, and 40s, there are entire zones that you cannot go into unless you're basically max level. Now, this completely kills the pacing, and I'm trying not to rage mode, but several times I would literally just be sailing along on my boat and bump into higher level vessels that sunk me in a second, or riding along on my horse and I suddenly just go near an outpost and get one shot and sent back to the last save point. This series, Assassin's Creed, has really shined the most because it felt like you were getting to take part in these really cool time periods and really be that hidden blade in the darkness. Your ability as a player is the only barrier of entry. If you are good enough to do a counter or strong enough mentally to try and handle that next big task, you should be able to do it. Forcing players to continually stop and just basically hang out in an area for no reason other than to try and drag out the pacing of this game is very annoying. If you were able to beat this game without having to grind different materials or level up your weapons, you could probably finish this game in about 15 or 20 hours. Instead, it takes 60 to 80 hours since continually it feels like they're trying to stop you in your tracks. Moving past that though, I do want to say that for the most part, I enjoy a lot of the stuff about just going around and getting in fights. The combat is very, very refined, and it's cool that we get to take a bigger part in this world. One of the main things they've introduced here is Conquest Battles, where there will be a new territory that has like an evil king in it. You can go through and do stuff like try and kill some of his stronger units, take out lieutenants, or burn his supply depots to make it where as a nation they're slowly weakened. Now what this does is it makes it where his personal bodyguards get lower level, and so does he, until eventually you can walk into his palace and strike him down. Now this isn't the end of the encounter. It basically just starts a giant civil war, where now you get to choose which side you want to be on, and then essentially making it where one army gets to completely dominate this place forever from now on. So you really get to not only take part in it, but it really feels like you're getting to set a piece of history in motion. These sections are really, really great, and they're kind of refreshing, especially when you're just getting to wander around and take place inside of this universe. But then there is another giant drawback, which is that, of course, since this is an Assassin's Creed game, we have to have modern day sections that feel very, very weird. And here, I particularly didn't like them, since the modern day sections, they really felt like they only existed to try and set up future sequels. We're playing as these archaeologists who are trying to investigate different tombs and figure out different stuff about our main characters in the past. But along the way, they continuously name drop all sorts of stuff that is definitely going to be games further down the line. Talking about a Japanese brotherhood, or hinting about different great battles of the past that they might need to look into. This stuff isn't fun. Even when I'm doing modern day stuff like swimming around in caves or trying to get into combat there, I never really felt like this mattered. It's one of those things where I almost felt like I was counting the seconds until I could climb back into the Animus and get to the real fun. For all the stuff that this game does exceedingly well, it's also a project that is very, very flawed. It's the best Assassin's Creed we've gotten in a bit, but it's hard to truly love it. Okay, so we've heard some good and some bad, but let's go to the ratings board and put a big number on it. I am giving Assassin's Creed Odyssey an 8 out of 10. If you're somebody who really truly loves just the nitty-gritty action of getting to wander around and beat things up and slowly craft increasingly more awesome armor, definitely check this game out. However, if you are looking for something that is just a fun little adventure that you can knock out in an afternoon or in a long weekend, do not. You must avoid this because this is a very grind-heavy RPG with some sparkling action in it. Thanks so much for watching, gamers. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, share with your friends, and subscribe if you haven't already. But do me the biggest favor of all and keep dreaming. Oh, hey, I was just playing a little bit of Grand Theft Auto on my Darth Vader PSP. Are you curious what I'm going to come out with next? Well, if you click this button, you'll be subscribed to be the first to know. Also, if you click over here and here, you can see my latest review and my latest top 10. I promise, it was super good. Or it was really bad and I'm sure you can just make fun of me in the comments. Either way, it'll be a lot of fun. Thanks so much for watching.